Well, good afternoon. It's Sunday, January 8th, 2023. I'm Hewie Poplock, and this is the Central Florida Computer Society and Sarasota Technology User Group's Windows Special Interest Group, or WinSIG. Welcome, and we're glad you're here. It's a sunny but cool afternoon here in Bradenton, Florida, and we've got people from all over the country and other countries as well. We've got a nice crowd of about 55 people on so far, and people kind of drizzle in the next 10 or 15 minutes. We're glad you're here, and Happy New Year to everybody. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the way we work, I post a list on my website of the items I'm going to cover. I also send it out in the WinSIG newsletter, which I hope you subscribe to. It only goes out about once a month, so you're not inundated with a lot of emails, and I don't share the list with anybody. And it usually has information about the Sarasota main meeting, the CFCS main meeting, and the Windows SIG. And I try to put some kind of an article in there as well for you to read. And so if you aren't subscribing to that, go to Hewie.net and sign up for it. Of course, all of you have to be registered. And I'm not sure what happened, but a lot of you re-register or try to re-register. And I'm not sure why, because you don't need to. I don't know if there's something somewhere that's telling you to re-register or if you just felt you had to. But I did send out the notice very early this morning with your link. So you didn't, and I don't know what happens when you try to re-register, if it sends you another notice or not. But anyway, I'm glad you're here. We've got a full slate of information to cover today. So this is the WinSIG page on Hewie.net. And on there these are all of the items, and they have the links to the various articles that we'll cover. I got very ambitious this month because last month I had this many, and then I found a bunch more, and I said, well, we'll probably just have time for those. So I didn't use them. So I added the ones that were left over from last month plus this month's. And so I've got a lot more here. And you'll notice that January and December, I'm going to mute all, by the way. Let me do that. Let's see, where is that? Mute all. There you go. There we go. I hope I'm not muted. I'm not. Okay. You'll see that January is on top of the rest of the year from last year. And the way the software works that I create my website with, there's a limit on how much I can put on a page. So I am going to start a new page, and I'll put January's on it, and it'll have the first 6 months of 2023 on that page. But if you go down to the bottom, oh, there we go. You can go to the various pages. So it's not just making a new page and then putting the information there. I've also got to create a page and a link to it on the page. So I haven't taken the time to do that, but I will in the next week or so. So anyway, here are the articles for today. And if you'll notice along the top, I've got them all already open. And so let's go to the first one. We're in Microsoft Edge, so I have the immersive reader, which makes it easier for you to follow. Let's see, I want to take this, move it over here. And so how to set up your new computer the right way. Some of you may have gotten new computers for the holidays. And so what do you do to set it up? And there are several steps that you should take. And I may not agree with all the ones in this article, so we'll talk about it. The first one is run Windows Update on your new PC. So if you get a new PC and it's got Windows on it, you want to run the update. If it's a new Mac, I'm not sure how Mac works with that, but you want to make sure you've got the most recent update of the operating system on whatever computer you have. Same thing if you got a new Chromebook, most likely you'll need to make sure that it gets the latest update. And so you really need to do that. That should be the first thing you'll do. And the article shows you how to do that. And then you want to make sure that your favorite browser is installed. If it's not Edge. Edge, of course, comes installed on Windows, but you want to add any other like Chrome, Firefox, or Opera, or all of them. And then you want to go through the security settings for your PC. And you can do that in Windows, but you also might want to take a look at YouTube and put security settings. And if it's Windows 11 you're using, security settings, Windows 11, and watch a couple of videos, because they may tell you some things that you may need to set up as well. Then you want to put some kind of an antivirus, or if you're going to use the Windows one, use it. Now they're recommending Norton. If Bob G was here, he would recommend Avast. Avast is, and the free version of Avast. I'm sure this article has Norton in there, and if you click on a link, they get some kind of a fee for doing it. So what you want to do is just be careful, but put some kind of a antivirus on, or make sure the Microsoft one is enabled. The Microsoft one is considered one of the best, as well as the other ones that are available. Then you want to clean your bloatware. Now, what is bloatware? Well, when you get a PC from one of the brands, they get paid money to install or to put software on your computer that you may not want or may not want to run. Now, I want to say the nice thing, but most likely the software is just there and you have to install it. But if it's installed, you want to uninstall and remove it if you don't want it. And if it's not installed, you might just want to delete it. Yeah, go in and remove it so you don't install it by mistake. And it's called bloatware because it bloats your system. And then, of course, if you bought a new computer and it didn't have Windows on it, and you had a disk and you installed the disk and it was from Microsoft, most likely you're not going to get a lot of bloatware, but there might be a little bit there. But again, be careful and remove what you don't want. And then fill your new computer with any software that you want. If you have your old computer, before you shut it down for the last time, or if it died, then you can't do it. But if you still have it, or before you start your new one and you're going to no longer use the old one, you want to make a list of all of the software and all of the keys for that software. Now, I don't recommend you take the software and move it from your computer to the new one. Even if you just downloaded it and it's in a download folder and then you install it that way, I would go out and get the latest version. But make sure that latest version is still covered by your key for that, because if it's an upgraded version and you have to buy the upgrade, you're not going to be able to use that software with your old key. So you want to double check that. And then there's a website called Ninite, which is about free software. And if you go to Ninite, and you click on the various pieces of free software that you want to install, it has an installer and it'll install all of them at one time. So it's a nice way of doing it. And I'm going to talk about some of the places where you can get free software in one of the later items today. And then when you're done doing all of this, and you've got the computer where you're ready to start working with it, do a backup of the complete new Windows. And if you can, do an image backup so you can start from that point. But make sure you back it up after you've done all these things. So if something happens, you don't have to start from scratch. You've got a lot of those items. So make sure you do back up your computer. Let's see. Let me go ahead and stop the share and see if there are any comments or additions that anyone wants to add to that. Some of the things that you may do when you get a new computer.
I'll just add the comment that you said about backup. Stan Wallner is aware of somebody in our club that didn't do that. And his son got a new computer over the holidays, proceeded to set it up, ran into problems. Somehow or other, something flashed on his screen, told him to call Microsoft. So he called Microsoft, and Microsoft just made it worse. And he could no longer get into his internet, according to what was relayed. And he amazingly did not have a backup.
Yep. Stephen?
Yeah, when you start removing the bloatware, say occasionally, I get a little notice saying, "Are you sure you want to do this?" It may be linked to other libraries, which may affect other software that you don't know about. I don't know if you've had that occasion. Just something to be cautious about.
Yeah, just be cautious, but I've just gone ahead and just deleted them.
Yeah, usually you can get it back by going to Microsoft.
Yeah.
Just it can be a pain in the neck.
Yeah, you want to be careful that it's not one of Microsoft's products that can be easily removed and then replaced later on. Okay, let's. Somebody
the other
else?
question is about Microsoft. You use Microsoft 360 Pro with all of the different software.
Yes.
They've been offering lately, though, a lifetime. Like you can get Pro a one fee, a single time fee. I don't know if you've covered that in the past, but it's like $89 or something like that, and you get Pro, and then but it's not the 360.
No, it isn't. I understand that it's like buying a box
Exactly.
or a disc. And so you get a version that's going to be updated maybe a certain number of times, but it's forever, long as you don't have to update it. Okay. Drew, you have a comment on that?
That's exactly what I have. I have Office 2021 Pro Plus, and my Outlook is still the same 2021 version. It not going to change with 360.
Yep.
But those versions I got mine from Bleeping Computer. I bought it from, and it was less expensive, I think, in the long run than subscribing each month.
Ron?
I just have one quick comment, is that in my history of doing tech support, the biggest problem I see is the inexperienced person deleting files. And I think that to start to go into a computer and start deleting files, particularly if you don't know what you're doing, is not a good idea. And I think the modern operating systems we have now, such as Windows 11 or even Windows 10, do a very good job in managing your disk optimization and file management. And I think unless you're having problems, I think it's best to leave well enough alone and not actively go in and start deleting files, or you're going to get into problems. And that's just my comment. And particularly when it's not needed, right? It's just, most of these, we have huge hard drives now, and it really, I don't see it as a big problem. But where I do see a problem is when people start deleting files and then programs don't work. That is a big problem.
Yeah, I'm not talking about deleting files. I am talking about removing apps.
Yeah, but even when it's not needed, I just leave them, because it's, most often you're getting into problems.
Yep. If you don't know, leave it alone.
Yes.
Jim?
Well,
You're muted.
I find if I go in the start menu and look at the apps, I click on them, right click on them. A lot of times they'll have their own uninstall. Is that safe to use? Because it's provided with the app.
Yeah, it should be.
Because that's the way
That's
I
how
do
you,
it.
that's how you probably would do it.
Sometimes the
Okay.
developer just links it to the settings app, so it takes you there to the same places you would go in the settings app.
Okay, let's go back and share my screen, and we'll close that article. Let's see. I guess I already did. This is well, before I talk about this, one of the things I don't like is a lot of the articles that you run into in magazines and online talk about what Windows is going to do in the future. And then when they do it, no one tells you. And that's just something that bugs me, that a lot of these articles talk, well, it just showed up on the development version or the beta version. But when it becomes live, no one ever says anything. And it's kind of a teaser because it may or may not end up being a part of Windows or added to it. And so I'm telling you something here that I don't know whether it's going to happen or not, but the article says that Windows 11 snipping tool is getting a screen recording feature. And let's see, I don't want it to play the video. Let's see, it says here, as Microsoft notes, snipping tool lets you capture screenshots of various kinds today. And it's now testing a version that'll add screen recording. You know what I didn't do? I didn't go to the immersive reader here. Let's do this so you can read along with me. So we'll add screen recording functionality. So in the future, instead of a snipping mode button with various capture choices, the snipping tools toolbar will have a snip button and a record button for screenshots and screen recordings, respectively. As with existing snip, the screenshot functionality, you'll be able to choose which parts of the screen to record. It's not clear what the choices are, but full screen, one window, and full screen should be among them. So that's coming. And if you don't know what the snipping tool is, and I use a program called Snagit, so I don't use their snipping tool. And we're going to talk about some other programs that are available. That one of them that Drew King mentioned to me earlier. It's going to be in another article, so I'm not going to bring it up now. But there are other ways to do it. But if you come down here to the search button and just type in snipping tool or snipping, and there's the snipping tool, when you open it, you can press the Windows key and the Windows key, Shift and S to start a snip. You can have it in rectangle mode or no delay or new. So if I click on new, I don't know that you can see the screen kind of graying out, and then I can highlight something and click it. And because I've got something, and then it brings it up in the snipping tool. So that's how it works. But it also is going in, because I use Snagit, it brings that up as well. But so you're going to have the ability to also record a video, so you can do things. And so if you're showing somebody, like I just showed you what to do, you can do that within the snipping tool. The Windows 10 Windows taskbar features you should be using. So let's go to the immersive reader. Now, because they say you should be using them, that's what they're saying. That doesn't mean you agree or I agree. So let's take a look here. Move the icons to the left side. That means move your, instead of having it centered, make it like Windows 10. I'm happy with it in the center, so I just leave it alone. So that's not something I did. Hide the taskbar. I like the taskbar sitting at the bottom. If you hide the taskbar, when you bring your mouse down to the bottom, it pops up. And that to me is a pain. I rather have it there all the time because I have two monitors. I have it set up in Windows to show the taskbar on both monitors. And so I can click on something. If I can't get to it on my main screen because something's is over it, I can go over to my second screen and look at the taskbar there and click on it. And you Control plus, and then click to go to the last active window. I try to figure out what they meant by that. And that's not, it's a handy keyboard shortcut. I guess it's the Windows groups windows from the same app together in the taskbar. Oh, I see. So if you got several things open, I've only got one thing open in any window. You can do a control and then click, and it'll go to the next item in that listing. Drag and drop files. When Windows 11 was first released, the taskbar was missing one of the handiest features from previous versions. Thankfully, it's now possible to drag and drop files to apps in the taskbar. So you can take files, let's see, works exactly like you would think. Let's say you've downloaded an image and you want to use it in Photoshop. You can simply drag the file from the Chrome's downloads page and hover over the Photoshop icon in the taskbar, and Photoshop will open and you can drop the image into the app. You can make the taskbar bigger or smaller, but it doesn't get to be too big. In Windows 10 and earlier, you could put your mouse at the top of the taskbar and bring it up, and it would make a larger taskbar. And there's only two sizes, as I recall. There's small and large, and the large is not very large. So you don't have a lot of choice there. Change your audio devices from the taskbar. You can change the taskbar color, and you can see weather in the taskbar. If you can see my taskbar I have here, and if I hover over it, it brings up the news as a widget. And then you can move the taskbar to the top. I didn't think you could. Well, let's see. Probably have it locked. Taskbar settings. You can't just move it, I guess. Taskbar behaviors. Let's see, is it there? Alignment, hide the taskbar. So this is where you hide it. You can show badges. There's things you can do. But I don't see how you tell it to go to the top. I think you can take it to the top, but you can't to the sides. And that to me was a handy thing in earlier versions of Windows. Restore the taskbar labels. Windows doesn't have the option to see an app label on the taskbar. It only shows the icon and nothing else. Unfortunately, at the time of the writing, there's not an official way to change it. So I don't know if you can see my taskbar or not, but it's just icons. It doesn't give the words to them. StarDoc has a way of doing that. That's a program that's about $10. Okay. Let's take a break and see if there's any comments or questions or additions. There's some things in the
Yeah,
chat
the
box.
taskbar you can do on the right side when it says taskbar, there's a little button on the right side in settings. You drop it down. Right now you had it set to center. You drop down that button and it'll manage it to the top or bottom.
Okay, let's take a look. Where on here does it say that?
But and when you go to settings and you go where it says taskbar, and then it gives you a list under it, but on the right side where taskbar is, there's a drop down option on the right.
All I got is taskbar settings. When I open it, that opens this up.
Okay, Windows I'll go Windows I, I'll jump in there and I'll take a look at it and see taskbar, and I'll type taskbar,
Okay.
taskbar.
Because there's got to be a way to make it go to the left, and I'm not sure how to do that.
Yeah, it's in the taskbar settings. And when you go to taskbar settings, you're going to see task view. Here's task view is off. I just saw it when you had it up. It was up there when you had it up, and now I can't find it.
Well, I got it back up again.
In settings, it's under personalization and then taskbar.
That's where I'm at. Am I sharing?
No,
I'm not sharing. Oh, sorry about that, folks. Let me go back and share. Thought I was sharing. Come on. Zoom.
Oh, it's under taskbar behavior.
Mhm.
When you go personalization taskbar, then you go down to where it says taskbar behavior, and you
Oh,
open that
down
up.
here. Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
and right, it
Yeah,
says
there's
taskbar
the
alignment.
alignment.
Okay,
Yeah,
so center,
center
center
and
or left.
left.
That's all there is, center or left. That's all you get.
Yep. Yep. And I don't see where you can take it to the top.
No,
no, I don't think so.
And when it says left, it just shifts the icons. It's not putting it on the left side of your screen.
right, it doesn't put it on the left side like you could with Windows 10.
Yeah.
Have you tried to drag it? In Windows 10, I can drag my taskbar to the
Yeah,
right.
I'm trying that now. That doesn't drag. It did drag, I think, to the top when Windows 11 first came out, but I don't see a way to do that now.
Yeah, they changed it, because I vaguely remember that also.
Yeah. Okay, let's take a look at the next item here and go ahead. Let's see. Oh, I was going to look at the chat. Let me see.
All of these links that you're going over now, are they in on like a website or something that we can
If you go to Hewie's Views and Reviews at Hewie.net, go to the WinSIG page, they're
Right
all
there.
there.
Oh, sweet.
And I do that every month.
Huey, and you do know that's awesome, right?
I'm sorry?
You do know that that is awesome, right? What you do?
No,
Yes, it is.
I've been doing it for years, so it's just routine for me, not awesome. Anyway, let's see. There's lots of notes in here. Let's see, there's a link to Steve Gibson's note on LastPass. And then thanks to Walter, Jolin Ninite, we've recommended that site for years. Bellark Advisor to capture license keys. And a thank you to Walter. Mike says backup. Dick Vogel says, rather than trying to add all your old software at once, I only add software as I need it on my new computer. Good suggestion. I totally agree. But there's a few software packages that if I got a new computer, it's got to be on there. And one of them is Evernote, for instance. So, but there are some that, yes, I didn't put on and they're still not on.
A good thing of thumb is before you install software, do a not a backup, but what's it called?
System restore point.
It's a restore point. Just
Yep.
put one of those in there and then install your software. If you don't like it, you just go back once. You don't have to go through the nonsense of deleting stuff from different folders and everything else.
Very good. Okay, let's see. And then Christopher says, I go through control panel to uninstall apps. Okay. Steve Parker says control panels uninstall leaves a lot of debris in the registry and folders. And that is true. And that's where Mike says down below that, the Revo uninstaller is still one of the best ways to remove programs. It gets a lot of that extra stuff out of there. And then let's see, Jolin says, once again, Windows is bringing up the rear on the screen record tool. There are so many good ones out there. And then Jolin said, agreed, Mike, it's one of the best first apps that gets loaded on each of her new computers is Revo uninstaller. And Dick agrees. And Robert says settings to move taskbar option. Okay, and Tom Hirsch says 2 free screen recorders I use to capture our debut by NCH software and OCam. Both are easy to use. And John says the lack of a left taskbar is a big problem for me. I run remote ham radio station and every 1/4 inch of screen space is valuable. The remote apps are clustered at the top left of the remote screen and it's difficult to move the bottom of the screen. I totally agree that they really should have it. There are some times where you want it on the left or the right so that you aren't interfering with something that's on the screen. And Harmon says, I had 3 rows of icons in Windows 10. In Windows 11, the 3 dots at the end of the taskbar will have a second taskbar which pops up. And then Kathleen says, once again, thanks for an informative program. Although I'm years behind everyone else, I always learn a lot. And Drew says Revo Pro is only $40 a year and does a recording of the install. So that gets us up to date on the chats. Okay. Now, I think there's several of these articles are more for advanced people, but some of you who wouldn't use some of these things, it's nice to know they're there, but don't worry about them. Don't try to use some of the advanced tools if you're not an advanced user, because you can get yourself into trouble. And that's when you need that backup that you didn't do. So let's take a look at what we've got here. Frustrated with sluggish Windows performance, audit your startup programs. And there's a couple of ways in which you can get to your startup, but let's see what they say here. Do you use the app or service? Do you need the app to load at boot? And is a parent app. So there are some ways in which you can check your, I just want to see if it's in the next article. It isn't. So what we can do is we can go to settings, and then you go to apps, and then default apps. And it shows which default apps you have. But that's not what I'm talking about, not the default apps. I'm talking about is a startup. I'm sorry. I looked for the wrong thing here. Getting ahead of myself. What I want is installed apps. There we go. There's some things on here when it's still loading them. I got a lot of programs installed on this computer that's going out, finding them all. But I do want to look at what's here. So let's say this is the Brave browser. It tells me what version it is, tells me who where it comes from, the company it produces it, but it also shows me the date. I thought that was the date it was installed. It might have been updated. And that's what that shows, the latest update. Because some of these, if you go back, well, I thought it showed well, let's see, modify, you can uninstall it from here. I thought it showed the date in which it was installed, but doesn't look like it does that. Maybe it's when it was updated. What I want to do is see if there's any that go back several years, and it doesn't. Yeah, 2021. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. So it does. I believe that is the date in which it was installed or last updated. But there's also another way in which you can get to your installed apps. So let's close this. And that way is come down here and right mouse click your start button, or you can just look for the task manager in the search and open up Task Manager. This is in Windows 11 now. In Windows 11, you will see Startup Apps. And that's what we want to look for. These are the things that it will tell you whether they're enabled when you start up. I just confused myself, so I probably confused you, and I apologize. This is the startup apps I'm talking about. These are things that when you turn your computer on, they automatically start. And that you want to take a look at. That's more than just the apps. And you can enable or disable them from here. If you don't know what it is, leave it alone. But if you know that Feng operates a piece of equipment that I have, and I can disable it. Let's see, I would do it up here. I'd come up here and disable it if I didn't want it to load when my computer starts. So this is showing all of the programs. If it says it's enabled, starts when the computer starts up. Well, there are some programs you don't need to start when you start up. See if I can find one here. Let's see. Chrome, I probably don't need to start when I start the computer because I click it as soon as I get on anyway, but it loads it a little bit quicker by doing it that way. But here's iTunes. It's enabled, and I don't use iTunes, so I probably could disable that. OmniPage is enabled, and I don't use OmniPage, but maybe once every few months. So I can highlight that. I guess it is because it's gray, and I can tell it to disable it. And now it's disabled. And next time I start, that won't load when it starts my computer. So that's how you set up and turn off startup programs. Okay, close that and go to the next one. How to upgrade from Windows 11 Home to Windows Pro. Now, it's not free. So let's go ahead and look at the immersive reader. If you need some of the things that Windows 11 Pro has that you don't have in Windows Home, then you might want to do the upgrade. The upgrade sells for about $100, $99 to be exact. But here is a list in this article, and it tells you the difference. So if these are things that you don't need, you can stay with the home version. You don't use Hyper-V, well, and you got the home version, you don't need it. If you aren't going to use the sandbox, stay with the home version. BitLocker, if you don't need it, then stay with the home version. And so you'll see what the differences are between the home and the Pro version. And in most cases, let's see, you can only have one CPU with the home, and you're going to have two CPUs. Most of you only have one anyway. The maximum RAM with the home version is 128. Now I've got, let's see, what do I have? I got 64 gigabytes of RAM. So it still would run on the home version. But if I wanted to have up to 2 terabytes of RAM, this is RAM, this is memory, not storage, then you would you'd need the Pro version. And then the article goes on to tell you how you can do that. But what you have to do is you have to buy the upgrade. Close that. The best 9 utilities for Windows power users. And what do we mean by a power user? That means if you don't know what a power user is, you're probably not one. The utilities for a power user would be someone who really knows Windows and can get in and work and make settings changes and know what they do. And so BleachBit is one. There's one called F.Lux and Process Lasso. I know Steve is one person that probably is familiar with some of these. Mike maybe, and there's a few others of you who I know have used some of these advanced features and for power users. To be honest with you, most of them are more than I would do. So if you're more advanced than I am, you might want to look into this. And so there's an optimizer and an IO bit unlocker and so on. So that's for those of you who are power users, that's an article you might want to take a look at. Also, you probably are a power user if you know and use and look at the task manager. Well, I found on How to Geek actually a complete guide to it. And let's go ahead and look at the immersive reader part of it. But this is a long file, but it is something that you might want to have in your notes, or if you save notes or Evernote and so on, you might want to save this. It talks all about all of the settings and all of the things that the task manager shows you and what they mean. So if you're interested in learning more about the task manager, this is a good article to have. And same thing with the Process Explorer. I don't use the Process Explorer, and so I can't even tell you anything about it. It's again something more advanced than most of you would use, and if you're interested in it, there's a good article about it. And let's take a break and see if there's any comments, questions, or additions or subtractions or whatever. Comments from anybody?
I might just say that for those of us that use CCleaner, it's another tool. The free version is just fine. And it will let you take a look at all your startup programs and see what's running at startup and let you disable them. But just as I said previously in chat, backup, I never go in and make significant changes to my computer without first having a complete backup before I start.
Yeah, and the if I don't know what a program does, I leave it alone, or I go and I at least research it in Google and find out what it does and why it's there, because it might be, even though it sounds something like something that you wouldn't need, it could be a part of Windows or a part of a program that you use, and it would break that program. So be very careful what you do delete or don't use at startup and so on. Let's see. Steve Parker says sysinternals auto runs is a good way to control startup apps. And then make sure when adding new software to pin that software to the taskbar or the second taskbar. Okay, let's go ahead and share a screen again. How am I doing on time? We're good. Okay. Okay, this one, a lot of times, some of you have switched from a mechanical or a disk-based hard drive to an SSD or a solid state drive, and they basically, they work and then they don't work. There's not much in between, but there are some ways to check the health of your SSD card or SSD drive, and use some have manufacturer software that you can get for free. Western Digital has some software. They have a free SSD dashboard tool that can display health, performance, and diagnostic data for Western Digital disks. And so there's a picture of what that looks like here. So if you have an SSD card, you might want to check to see what kind of tools, and then it'll say what Windows can tell you about SSD health. And then they've also got PowerShell techniques in a separate article. But again, this is probably not for those of you who are beginners or use your computer just to do certain things. You don't need to know about these things. Let somebody who helps you with your computer take a look at these. And so you might want to point out, if you've got an SSD card, to whoever works on your computer, take a look at my SSD card and see how its health is. And that's to check it within PowerShell. I thought this was a good article because I know there are some people who prefer their Macs instead of PCs. So let's take a look at this article. 10 differences between Macs and PCs. And they actually have they talk about it. I don't think there was a chart. There might be a chart in the article. We'll go back and look at the article without it being in immersive. But one difference is design. And so it talks a lot about it. The price, Mac products, few of them sell for less than $1,000, while there are many PC models that fall within that price range. So Macs are generally more expensive than PCs with similar specs. Although the Macs have a tendency to be better specs, and so most likely the PC that you look at with those same specs is going to be fairly expensive as well in the same price range. The technical specs talks about it here. The choice, availability. When it comes to third-party retail stores, Apple is more selective than PC manufacturers. So you're going to have, there's only certain places you can get the Macs, where PCs you can find almost anywhere. The operating systems are different. And there's users, and then the software. Although a lot of the same software works on both, it's a different version for the Mac than it is for the PC. So if you have one of each, most likely you have to purchase both versions. The security, another big difference between a Mac and a PC is the level of security you can expect from viruses and other unwanted intrusions. Because of the vast majority of the world's computers run on Microsoft Windows, most attacks focus on PCs. Malware like Trojans, which trick users into installing them by pretending to be something desirable, like antivirus programs and botnets, which quietly enlist computers into an army of zombie machines designed to distribute spam or advertise fraud, are now common threats to PCs, but more rarely harms the Mac. But Macs shouldn't completely ignore security. There are problems where at one time Macs were very seldom did you have to worry about it. Now you have to, and there are issues. Then customer satisfaction, that's one of the most striking differences between them. Apple took the top spot in brand intimacy COVID study by MBLM, branding agency, which surveyed all brands, not just computers, but the American Customer Satisfaction Index rated Apple the top computer brand in both 2019 and 2020, with Samsung and Acer in second and third positions. And let's see, and then there's some FAQs. And I think if we get out of the immersive view, I think there was a chart. Let's see. There must have been another article I was looking at. No, thought there was in another article I was looking at comparing the two. They had them side by side with a list what the differences were. You know that I've used and talked about a program called Everything, and this was an interesting article about it written by somebody other than me, and just talking about using Everything and how they couldn't work without it. The next item on my list after this is my video on how to find anything and everything on a PC. I'm not going to play it here, but if you click on that link, it will take you to my video on the program Everything. So let's see, where are we here? Let's see, done this. Is this one we did? No, okay. 8 feature-rich screenshot tools for Windows. We were talking about this earlier, but we didn't cover it. And it was talking about the snipping tool. And then Drew and I had a conversation about Snagit and one that he discovered that's in this list. So Lightshot is one, and it's free, and it does screen captures. ShareX is another, and that also is free. And they show some pros and cons for each of these. This is the one that Drew found. It's free, but if you want to subscribe, it's $24 per year. No, was that it? Pick.
Yes, it was.
Drew? Okay.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah, it's a very nice feature-rich app.
yeah. And when you open it, you'll notice the interface will really look good. In fact, the sidebar and ribbon interface is the same one used by Microsoft Office applications. And that's what it looks like.
You can
And then
import directly into Office.
I'm sorry?
It has import buttons to send your drawings and edits directly into Office.
Okay, good. And then Snagit is the one I use. I've used it for years. And then GreenShot is another that's free. And then Gyazo is only $4 a month or free. And then MonoSnap, again, is free, but if you want the paid version, it starts at $250 a month. And ScreenRec is another. And then some questions and answers about those. So there's lots of programs that you can do screen captures. And it's nice to do that. If you get an error message, just record it. And that's what I do. So if I get let's say this was a message that came up, I just hit my Snagit button, which was on my other screen. I just grab this, and I come down and go like this, and then tell it to take the snapshot, and it'll open up. And then I can do all kinds of things with this. I can click an arrow. I can write text. Well, I guess I can. Oh, yeah, I can add text, say hello. And I have it on red, but you can change the colors of it. You could stamp. And the other thing that I like about this, you can blur something. So if you don't want somebody to see something, you can actually blur it completely, or you can make it like this. Well, because it's black, you can't see it. But let's say we blur that, and you can various degrees of blurring. So you might see some of it through there and so on. So you can do a lot with this program, and a lot of the other ones allow you to do some of these things as well. So let me close that out. And let's do a little discussion here. Do any of you do screenshots, or why don't you do screenshots? Especially any of you who do any teaching or any support for people. Screenshots are great ways to help people
Yeah, I do a lot
I
of
use-
documentation and use Snagit all the time. Also, a feature you didn't mention, it'll grab the text. If you highlight something and you want the text out of it, just right click and choose grab text and it'll copy and OCR the text for you.
Yeah, and it also will, if you've got a really large page, it'll scroll down and over to the side. You can get the whole page in a JPEG, and then you can. What I do with one that I have to post, I take it and then divide it up into little pieces, and then add the pieces together in Facebook for them or on my website.
I use FS Capture. I capture the whole screen or parts of the screen. I use it for technical reports and videos for seniors. I teach a group down in Florida where I'm at, and I use that to show classes I used to teach
Yeah, Robert, where are you located?
in Boynton Beach.
Okay. Yeah, so any of these programs are really great if you help people, or if you're writing an article on how to do something. You can do a screen capture, do the next item you're going to do another screen capture, and you'll see that I know I do that in a lot of articles and a lot of the videos I do individual screen captures and then go from one to the other. I know Jolin uses it a lot, and I'm sure a lot of the rest of you do. If you put any kind of training material or explanation materials together, it does it. Now with Snagit, one thing I can do with Snagit is I can set up a default and tell it if I hit the button, it automatically takes a snapshot of the area or of the whole screen, gives it a name or number, and then puts it in a folder that I designate. And so I can do screenshots, one right after the other, and I don't have to stop and name it and put it somewhere. It does it automatically for me. And that's a feature of Snagit that I have used for years.
Yeah, I used to use that. I used that a long time ago also.
It's also real handy if you're dealing with support and they want to know what the error messages are. You can get the exact reading instead of trying to type it in.
Absolutely. That's the best thing to use it for, is if you get an error message and you have to tell somebody, well, they came up with an error message. Well, that's not going to help me tell you what's wrong and what you can do to fix it. I need to know what that message says. And then I'll do a search on different aspects of what it says to see if I can narrow it down and find out how to fix it. So it really is important to do a screen capture and grab that that error message. Now, if you don't know how to use any of these programs, you've never used anything, just hit the print screen on your keyboard. When you hit the print screen, it puts it in the clipboard. So then you got to do something with it. The best thing to use it with is if you use Word, Google Docs, or even WordPad, a program that will take a picture. You can then open that program and then paste it into that, and then you'll have a copy of it. And then you can save that file.
If you use the Windows key and the print screen key, it automatically opens and puts it in the screenshot folder. I think it creates. If you don't have a screenshot folder, the first time you use it, it creates a screenshot folder and puts it in there. And every time you do it, it goes there.
That's a Windows key and the print screen.
The Windows key and print screen key, yes.
Yes, I do that every day.
Hewie, Fred Cagle here. The only
Yes,
one
Fred.
of these screen capture programs that seems to work with scrolling windows for me is a paid version of Faststone Capture. Scrolling windows meaning you have more than one screen that you want to capture, and it successfully works every time. All the others seem to work sometimes. Does anyone know of any of the others that work with scrolling windows?
Yes.
Through the one you're
Snag it.
playing with.
Yes,
Does it
the one
work?
that I just started using, CapCap, is it captures from the very top of a website all the way down to the very bottom, and you can store it in a variety of different file formats. You can then edit and add boxes and lines and drawings and save it for future reference.
What was the name of that again?
Faststone Capture is the one that John Stadful, whom I see is on this this participation list recommended, and I think it's $12. I paid $12. It's not a subscription. It's a flat fee. It was totally worth it. Fastone is FASTONE, capture. The other feature that it has, it does a recording. So quite often there are things I want to capture and turn into a video. I use that with PowerPoint. My PowerPoint sometimes won't give me a video that I want. So I will run the PowerPoint and do a screen capture with Fastone Capture. It creates a Microsoft file format, no MP4, but it captures a Microsoft format, but it's pretty high quality. It works, it then can be converted into an MP4, and I really don't see a significant loss in quality.
Yeah, those of you who've mentioned programs, Drew and Robert and Fred, if you'd put a link in the chat box of if not just the name of the program you use, but also if you can find a link for it. What I want to show you, for those who don't know what we're talking about, let me show you, and this is what I do. This was an email that I got today, and you'll see that it's fairly long. And I want to capture that. And so what I do is when I click on my Snagit, and it's on my other screen, but I choose panoramic scrolling. So I'm going to click that, and then I'm going to bring it over here, and I'm going to grab from here to here. So now watch what happens. Start, and then I just scroll down and then tell it to stop. And then you can see that I have now captured all of that. And then I can save it, or I can edit, say I want to save it without that part in it, or I want to save it with all, and so on. I can do that. So when I do that, I get a JPEG that, well, let's go ahead and just tell it to save it. See if it's going to go in the right folder. Save as. Good, it's going in the right one. So test. And I can save it as a JPEG. I can save it as any one of these things. But we're going to save it as a JPEG. And I'll say save it. And there it is. Now let me go to that folder. And it's documents. It's buried in there pretty good. And you can see that I've got a few here that are fairly long. Here's the test one I just did. And when I click on it, that's the JPEG. So it's whoops. So it's fairly long. But as you can cut it up, you can use different parts of it, or you can use the whole thing. Now this is only 33.9%. So if I make it 100%, it's going to be back up to the full size as the JPEG, but it depends on where you're going to put it and how you're going to use it. But I can grab and get whole screens of things and then go back and then take parts of it out that I want. And you can see I've done that different weeks where I go like this, and then I grab it and I put it in pieces. And then when I post it on the website, I take part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, and part 5 in a row. So I get a nice view on the website. So let me close some of this stuff out. And let's go ahead and stop sharing for a moment. So I think you get an idea when we talk about scrolling, what you can do is it's more than a screen full. It's hard to get a screen capture of it. And then you either got to get different do a screen capture and then do another one and then try to piece them together, where if it has the ability to scroll and capture it at the same time, it'll do that for you. Comments, questions? And then there's other things that Snagit, and some of these other ones do too. You can grab text from a picture and so on, as I think it was Robert mentioned. So there's a lot of things you can do with these capture programs.
It's amazing. It really is, Hewie, because Snagit, it's open to any of them will do this. That saved my butt a bunch of times trying to put something together. And
Oh,
you
absolutely.
you need a quick down and dirty something to cover, and Snagit really, the club, Hilton Head On Computer Club, the club bought it originally to use, to do presentations. And I took they kindly gave me one of the licenses. And so when it came time to renew it, the club wasn't ready to do it because nobody was really using it, but I was. So I now own the software, and it's just wonderful. I keep renewing it and getting the updates, and the training that they do is amazing. So
Yeah.
it was an excellent demo you just did. Thank you.
Yeah, and if you use Camtasia, which is a video editing program, the two of them are from the same company and they work very well together. And you can actually do some videos using Snagit and then automatically put those right into Camtasia. So there's a lot of benefits in using that if you're doing a lot of work with it. If you just want screen captures, well, there's lots of programs out there, as I showed you, that you can do that. And there's a lot of videos. It's saying that the snipping tool is going to be able to do some video captures. Well, there's a lot of them out there. There's Screencastify and Screencast-O-Matic that even run on your, and then also built in, run on your Chromebook. So there's a lot of utilities like that out there. What I like about the screen capture as opposed to a video is sometimes you've got information on there that you don't want to show everybody. And so by having just an individual picture, it makes it easier either to block it out or create something. And then it's easier to talk about one screen and then another screen, and then make a PDF out of it to hand out to people as well. Okay, we got a few more minutes that we have available. So let me go ahead and share my screen again.
Oh, yeah, it's not free.
Your microphone's on.
Sorry.
Okay, let's see that one. We've already done that. And that, I should have closed these down as I finished with them. I use Power Toys. I've talked about Power Toys a lot. This article just talks about the latest release, and it's mostly updates. There wasn't anything new, I don't think, in there that you needed. But if you're using Power Toys, go ahead and get the latest version. How to print Google Calendars. This I thought was a pretty good article, but I also found a program that I'll talk about here in a moment. But if you want to print a Google Calendar, this is a good article on how to do it. But the thing I don't like the way Google Calendar works is when you go to print it, it truncates a lot of the items, and or if you have a lot of items within a certain date, it also truncates them with the word more. And so you don't really get a good printout of it. And so I don't like that. So I had somebody that was doing a calendar, and we were doing it in Google Calendar, but she couldn't get all the information in. So I went searching, and I found a website that you can do it online. And let's see if I can remember what it's called. See if it's print. Oh, I can't remember what it's called now. Let me hang on here a second. Let me find it. No, that's not where I want to go. Oh, I knew I was going to forget it and I didn't write it down. I was working with it this morning to try to remember how to do it. Well, let's do everything because that's where I found it. And I actually made a video on how I did it. So I'll, with no audio to it. So let's see, print Cal. There we go. Printable, let's see.
Calendar print assistant.
No, that wasn't it.
Okay.
Something MyCal. Oh boy, there's a lot of things here. I am so sorry. At my old Cal. Oh, nuts. I apologize. Is it print my Cal? Yeah, how to use. There we go. You go to that folder. Called Print My Cal, and it's a website called printmycal.com. But let me show you what it does. There's no audio to this. This is what it looks like on the website. And this is how I was doing it. I'd sign in first. That's the address, printmycal.com. I sign up or log in. So I'm logged in and you can sign in with Google. And I would find one of my Google accounts that I had set up just to do this. And so, as you can see, I have several Google accounts. Okay, and now I can design a page. And I give it a name and I can save it so I can use the same one again. I can change the font. I can change the weekday font and the date font. And then I can pick which kind of calendar I want. This is, so there's some choices there that you can do. And you can, again, change the font sizes and so on. So you can change the font size to be able to fit everything you want in a particular box. And then you download the file. And when you download it, you can do 1 month. And that's what I do, or what I did when I put this together. And so for 1 month, and then prepare the calendar. And then you can save it either as a PDF or an RTF. Well, I would save it as an RTF and then open it in Word, and you can edit it and line things up. And so it was a very easy process by following what I just did. And the reason I did the video is because we only did this once a month. And the lady that I helped with this, she'd keep forgetting how she had to do it. So I put the video together to try to help her. So, but it's called Print My Cal, and it allows you to save it as a Word document or an RTF, and then you can go in and edit and line up the pieces and so on, and have a really nice looking calendar with all of the information you want for the Google Calendar. And on that note, I am going to stop my share. See if there's any last questions. Jim Glass, you got your hand up?
Yeah, I was wondering with that type of program, can you add a photograph page? You know, like on the commercial calendars, you have on the back side a photo, and the next page would be the calendar. Does that have a means of doing something like that?
Well, you're saving it as an RTF, which is a rich text format, which Word will read. So you just open up in Word and you can do whatever you want. You can have a page with a picture, then the calendar page, another picture, and then another calendar page, and then print it out that way. Sure.
Okay.
Or
Yeah,
if you want to
insert
put a picture, And if you want a small icon in one of the dates, like for Valentine's Day, put a heart in or something, you can do that because it's a document. At that point, it's a Word document or a Google Docs full file or whatever you use is a word processor.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Is that all? Is that free? Or you just gotta
Yeah,
sign
it's free.
up?
No, it was free. You got to sign up. You
Yeah.
got to create an
These
account.
places just want your email because they turn around and sell it anyway, so.
Yes. I've not had any problem with them at all. And I've been, as you saw, I made that video about 3 years ago.
Is there an easy way to put a Teams calendar or an Outlook calendar into Google?
I don't know. I don't know the answer to that.
There's one software program out there that sells for about $80-90 that will synchronize Outlook calendars with the Google Calendar. It's made by a company called Companion Link.
Yeah. And Hewie, I think Michael Daniels did a tip on that.
Yeah, I think so too. I think there's a way of doing it, but I've not played around with that.
Yeah.
I just have Google on all of my computers and I don't need to do that. I don't use the calendar in Microsoft. I use the Google
If I
Calendar.
find it, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
And share it with the gang.
Absolutely. Peter.
I've been using for many years a program called G-Synced, which does an outstanding job of syncing Google calendars with Outlook.
Would you type that in the chat box?
Sure.
Great, thank you. So there are some other ways you can do it. Okay, if there's no other questions, let me go ahead and share my screen one more time. This has been the Windows SIG or WinSIG from the Central Florida Computer Society and the Sarasota Technology User Group for Sunday, January 8th, 2023. I'm Hewie Poplock. Thanks for attending today or watching the video on YouTube. We'll see you next month.